We've got Peggy Christ unable to join via audio. And so I'm going to kind of take this, kind of go with it. You can hear me and you can hear Sandy. We'll have to rely on messaging and the chats for questions and answers. But we'll go ahead and we'll give it a shot here. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn series. The moderator is Peggy Christ. She is on the line and she will be here to take questions and respond back to make sure that everybody gets more information. A little bit about the Florida Green Building Coalition. We are a nonprofit dedicated to improving the built environment within the state of Florida. To date, we have certified over 31,000 projects. And if you're interested in learning more about the Florida Green Building Coalition, please visit floridagreenbuilding.org. And you can get information there as well on how to join and become a member. And membership allows you to become a little bit more familiar with green building trends within the state, as well as take advantage of webinars and meetings with green professionals. We do have a poll real quick just to find out how you found out about us today. So if you take a second really quick to answer our poll.
Did you do that?
No. Oh,
Thank you.
this is great.
And then a little bit today about today's guest speaker, Sandy Adomatis. Peggy, I can hear you now.
You can?
Yeah, if you turn up your speaker a little bit, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Let me see, because I've lost the picture.
Okay. I'm going to continue doing this and then we'll hand it over to Sandy.
Yeah, I wanted to introduce Sandy.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You
Go
tell me
ahead
when
if you want. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I do want to introduce Sandy. I mean, Sandy Adomatis is the president-elect for the Appraisal Institute. So we'll be looking forward to having her as a president in 2024. She is currently the vice president of the Appraisal Institute. She's a national spokesperson to the state and federal government agencies, energy organizations, realtor groups, state coalitions, national and local home builder groups, and utility companies. She is she contributed to the 2011 Appraisal Institute Residential Green and Energy Efficient Addendum that we see. And in 2014, the Appraisal Institute Commercial Green and Energy Addendum. She has received a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2020 and a Swango Award in 2020 and 2022. A Henry and Trekin Lifetime Achievement Award in 2019. Outstanding Service Award in 2016, President's Award in 2013. She is an outstanding individual. She is also an author of the Residential Green Valuation Tours. I cannot tell you how much we appreciate you extending your time, Sandy, to us on trying to explain these the importance of using our green MLS fields, and I dearly regard her. And she's an asset to everyone she comes in contact with. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Peggy.
Okay, I think we've got everybody live on audio. I just stopped sharing, Sandy, and you can take over now.
And
Okay.
CJ, I do not have a screen.
All right. I'm sorry for all the problems there in the beginning. I'm not sure what was happening, but now I can hear you, and hopefully you all can hear me. So with that and that great introduction, I'll get moving on this. It was very handy for me to be asked to do this today because I went into Washington D.C. in April and to the NAR's legislative conference. They asked me to come in and give this pretty much the same speech to them about the importance of completing the MLS greenfield and taking education on the appraiser side as well as the agent side. So with that, I'll move on into my presentation here. And one of the first things that we hear a lot, and all of you would probably agree with that, is that environmentally friendly or energy efficient features in new construction or renovations may boost what buyers are willing to pay for a home. So we'll talk a lot about that as I move through the presentation today. And I'll tell you, if you have a question, go ahead and interrupt me. It doesn't bother me or throw me off at all. Sometimes it's easier to do that than go back to slide 24 or whatever the slide number might be. So the questions that I typically am asked by a lot of folks is, are the energy efficient and green features value represented in the appraisal? And are the energy efficient green features represented in marketing in the MLS? And how do we communicate those improvements to potential buyers, appraisers, and lenders? And can the buyer finance those additional costs? So those are the big questions of the day. And along with the MLS, I'm going to address builders as well, because builders need to do advertising as well of those green features. So you'll see that as we move through the slide deck today. So the problem analysis and the solution to not getting value for the green features all rolls back to the marketing. Is it marketed appropriately? Does it show up in the data? We have some new data sources today, new databases that are most helpful to appraisers and realtors. The biggest problem we have is getting that information, those data sources, out to those using it. Even the public, there are open databases they can use. So I'm going to say that the solution to the problem that we're talking about lies within the real estate ecosystem. All of us have a part in this. We all need to be working together. And I can say that in my 15 years of working in this area, I am seeing more collaboration and more of our silos connecting. When I first started in this field 15 years ago, nobody spoke to anybody about what was going on. I was completely oblivious to green construction, and I started out in construction back in the 70s. So when I was first introduced to green construction, I was shocked that this was happening, had been happening for a few years, and yet appraisers had no knowledge of it, and it seemed like realtors didn't either. So we've come a long way with that. So are energy and green features properly marketed? That's always a good question, and something appraisers often will bring up. Proper marketing of those green features is the very first step into seeing a sales price premium or an appraisal that will reflect value for those features. So identifying the features in the MLS is necessary for an appraiser to find the correct comparables that are truly similar to the property they're appraising. Quite often when the value comes in lower than a contract price, it's usually because they can't find the data, or they'll say there are no sales of green homes in my market. I've even seen that in Lakewood Ranch. I've seen it in Babcock Ranch. All those houses are green, but you get a new appraiser in there that doesn't know anything about the green homes, and they don't see it identified in the MLS field. They're not going to know that all the homes in that market are green. They may or may not make appropriate adjustments or identify the features correctly. A good example is a friend of mine is moving up to Lakewood Ranch. They live here in the Isles in Punta Gorda, where I live. And she was telling me that they just sold their home and they're moving to Lakewood Ranch. And my comment back to her was, oh, that's great. So you bought a green home. She looked at me like I had two heads. She had no idea she bought a green home. So again, that goes back to proper marketing, to the agent that sold the home, being able to identify these features, talk to the buyers, educate the buyers about it. If we don't educate buyers and sellers in the market, we're going to have a hard time moving the value and the benefits of green forward. We've come a long way, but we have a long way to go. So I think that's something we continue to work on. So I'm going to hit the builders up here a little bit, because I love to talk to builders, go to their sales offices. I usually go in as a blind shopper. I like to go in and talk to their sales agents and say, do you do any kind of ratings on these homes? Like, is it energy efficient? And I go into subdivisions where I know they have ratings, where I know that that's what they're building. And the last time I did that, the agent said to me, I don't know what you're talking about. All of our homes are energy efficient. I said, do you do ratings? She goes, oh yeah, we get a CO, we get a building permit. Now this is a builder who certifies green and who gets an energy, a rating, a HERS rating. The sales agent knew nothing about those. So again, that's something that has to be worked on as we move forward in building these homes and promoting the value and benefits of them. So, and the builders must advertise those features in all their advertisements, in builder magazines. I even went to a builder magazine in Orlando and flipped through the magazine, which, there's a lot of builders in Orlando. Only one of them in the entire magazine advertised a HERS rating or any energy features at all. Nobody advertised a green certification. That must change. So not only do realtors have something they need to work on, but so do builders. So are the energy and green features valued in the appraisal? So that all starts with the marketing and the sales data. And it starts with, if we have the marketing and the sales data where it needs to be, the next step is you got to have a knowledgeable appraiser with tools and resources to find the data they need to more accurately value these homes. Data from the local market to show that the market accepts the features. It's the MLS. When an appraiser does an appraisal for a mortgage company, so it's going to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, VA, or FHA. The guidelines tell the appraiser that if the appraiser comes up and says, well, I have no sales, so I can't give it any value for this, one of the things that's going to raise a red flag. So the lender is going to say, well, wait a minute. Guidelines say you have to prove that the market accepts these features, or is this the first time this house has been built? Well, that goes back to the appraiser needs to be able to find those databases to be able to show that, yes, these houses are being built in this market. Here's an address of 20 of them. Pull it from Green Building Registry, pull it from the MLS, pull it from the HERS rating. So those are the things that I'm trying to work with on the appraiser side. And we also need to work on that on the builder and the realtor side. It also helps them support their opinions of value. And we'll talk more about that as we move on. Here's a good example. Now, this is not from our Florida MLS. I know we've gotten a little better with our MLS, but I did a search of our Florida Stellar MLS, and I sure didn't come up with a whole lot of sales with green features. But this one is from Connecticut. I recently did 2 webinars for the appraisers in Connecticut, and it was sponsored by the Department of Energy in Connecticut. And they were promoting energy efficient ratings. They had some funding that they were trying to get more people to do ratings on their home. And then they wanted to educate appraisers and realtors on the ratings. In the public comments, you'll see they start out with Energy Star Custom Home. That's a great thing to start out with right there. You're knowing Energy Star is a well-known name. Florida Green Building Coalition might be another one to start out with, but those first 2 lines in your public comments should identify those features that are special in this home, such as your green features, your energy efficient features. Don't spend a lot of time and bury those special features down into the public comment. Your reader is not going to review them, and neither will your appraiser. I can tell you when I'm going through the MLS, I'll pull maybe 20, 25 comps, and I'll read through the public comment. After the first couple lines, I'm done reading. If it doesn't mention a lot of the things I'm looking for as far as energy or green features, then I know it's probably not there. In the private comments on this particular one, they go into a lot more detail. Now, that's the kind of detail you'd want in your public comments, not hidden away in the private comments where buyers and appraisers may not look. The other thing that I do a lot is I do word searches. So I'll do word searches, and I try to train appraisers. Word searches are important, especially when you're doing green or energy efficient homes. And I'll search for words like green, energy, solar, HERS, has ratings. So those are some things that you might want to remind your agents that if they're not putting it in the searchable field and they're not using those words in the public comments, it's going to be hard to find the data appraisers need. So this question came up from the realtors in DC. It's what are the best investments for a homeowner? And excuse me a minute. So one of the things I did is I show this because they kept coming up, the questions kept coming up. Well, people don't look for energy or green features. They want new kitchens, they want new bathrooms. So yeah, they want new kitchens, they want new bathrooms. But they're never going to know about the special features behind the wall if the data is not being advertised. This billboard here is from RESNET Homes out of Salt Lake City, Utah. And this came from probably 10 years ago when I was out in Salt Lake City. I did a tour of all the RESNET homes. And these billboards were all over town, and they were selling houses like crazy. This would have been back in 2009, 2010, and you know what was happening back in that period. So they were doing solar and geothermal, and they were getting HERS ratings on their homes and green certification. The other thing is like the HERS scale. If we put that scale in the JPEG of the MLS, that will help to raise some questions with the buyers. What does that mean? And the agents need to be able to explain it. Some of the MLSs don't allow you to put things other than pictures in the MLS, and hopefully if that's not true, it's stellar. But if it is, work to get it changed. You can always attach it to the multiple list. And of course, solar and your charging stations or your EVs are something that come up a lot. But let's, you know, our market has been so hot in the last couple of years that yes, you can sell a house no matter what happens. But you know, those things are going to change. We're already seeing a slowdown in the market. We're seeing more days on the market. So having a home with special features and being able to advertise them appropriately will gain you more market share. So we need to really emphasize these green and energy efficient features. So how do agents, builders, and homeowners communicate those improvements to potential buyers, appraisers, and lenders? Use the green addendum. The AI residential green and energy efficient addendum can be used by anybody, and it should be completed by the person who knows the most about it. Recently, I was asked by a couple of builders, a big production builder, to have a consultation with them via Zoom. And their first complaint was they aren't getting value for green. Their second complaint was they can't find an appraiser who will complete the green addendum. And my question to him was, I said, wait a minute. How are you giving the appraiser the green addendum? They said, well, we just print it off and hand it to them. I said, completed? They go, oh no, we expect the appraiser to complete it. I said, it's a communication tool. You're supposed to communicate the features behind the wall. The appraiser doesn't have the data that you have. They go, oh, we've been 3 years working at it backwards. So, you know, get that information out there. Complete the green addendum, whoever has the most info, whether it be the builder, the architect, the energy rater, the HERS rater, the HES rater, the solar installer. More than one person can do their share of filling it out. It doesn't have to be one person. If you attach that to the sales contract and the MLS listing, then you're one step ahead of all the competitors. And I will tell you, by attaching it to the sales contract, it will alert the lender that they need to hire an appraiser who has knowledge in this property type, because it's going to be something unusual they don't see every day. And then when it's sent over to the appraiser will look at it and go, wait a minute, I don't know anything about this. And it gives them the option to turn down the assignment if they've never had education or if they don't understand it. So that's going to be helpful to you in finding the right appraiser. And you'll have to educate your buyer to be sure to ask for that when they go to their lending company. And then at the time the appraiser does the inspection, educate your seller to hand them a copy of the green addendum also. Don't assume that the buyer gives it to the lender gives it to the AMC, Appraisal Management Company, and then the Appraisal Management Company gives it to the appraiser. You can see all the hands it goes through. Sometimes it never gets to the appraiser. So if you document it, hand it over to the appraiser when you make the inspection, that will get you much improvement. So educating that buyer, educating your seller is extremely important. So how do we communicate these investments to the market? The green addendum will be most helpful to that. Now, I will say that in 2025, there's a new appraisal form. It's an appraisal report is coming out, and it's web-based, and it will have a lot of these features on it, where the current appraisal form does not. And that's why it's important to use that green addendum. But once the new form comes out in 2025, it will still be necessary to use this as your communication tool. It will be most helpful to the appraiser, but on the new appraisal report form, it requires the appraiser to identify a HERS rating on the property they're appraising, plus all their sales. It asks them about green certification on the property they're appraising, all their sales. It goes into more on solar, size and age of the solar system on their subject, and their comparable sales. So you can see how things are changing, moving toward the better for the market. So yes, we have a lot of green fields out there, but these green fields do us absolutely no good unless they're populated. And this particular one, you can see under green certified, it's unspecified. And in this particular property that I looked up, it was a green certified home. So it's something that has to change. We expect appraisers to do a more accurate value of these homes and characteristics of the home identified in the appraisal report. So some of the documents that make the invisible visible are resources for appraisers to analyze. Any of these documents, these certifications I have here on the screen, if you attach those to your MLS, attach them to your sales contract, make sure the appraiser gets a copy of them, that will be most helpful in a step forward. When I was doing negotiation with the Department of Energy on putting together a slide deck, I wanted to name it Valuing the Invisible Features in a Residential Home. And they said, well, why would you call them invisible? And I said, because they're behind the walls, we can't see them, number one. Number two, they're invisible in the MLS data. And they went, we never thought about it that way. So that was the title that we used in the seminar for appraisers in Connecticut. And we had really good turnout, and it was a 4-hour seminar. We had around 50 appraisers, which is pretty good. And they were overwhelmed at how much they learned in 4 hours, and they had no clue these kinds of houses were out there. So I hear that everywhere I go. Now on the solar side, there'll probably be some questions on solar. If so, now's a good time for it. But your solar PV value is a difficult one for appraisers, and quite often one that they just blow over because it's hard to find the data. And keep in mind that if you have a house that's selling and it has a leased or a power purchase agreement on the solar system, it cannot be included in the market value for lending. And that's because it's not owned by the property owner. It has a UCC filing, which is a Uniform Commercial Code filing, which makes it personal property. And in the contract for the lease or the power purchase agreement, the property owner is agreeing not to mortgage over it. So it's something that appraisers have to understand. They have to have the correct information on the comparables plus the property they're appraising. Is the solar system owned or is it leased? So that's valuable information that should go in the multiple list. Is that system owned or leased? Now, here's another catch. If it has a solar loan on it, again, it cannot be included in the market value for mortgage lending because the solar loans out there, unless it's mortgaged with the house, the solar loans identify it with a UCC filing, a Uniform Commercial Code filing. That's recorded with the recorder's office. That makes it personal property. And also when they sign a document for a solar loan, they're typically, I'd say 99% of the ones I've seen says you can't mortgage over this. Now, if you don't tell the appraiser it has a solar loan and it goes to a title company before closing, it could stop your closing if the title company uncovers a UCC filing. So it's important to get that information to the appraiser, to your lending company, to the buyers and sellers to be more accurate. Now, the tool here, the PV value tool, is one that I use a lot. It's one that the appraiser uses. It's an income approach and a cost approach to valuing solar. Now, the appraiser always has to measure that against what does the market say. So if they use an income approach, a cost approach, and then they find that in their market, the sales are saying it doesn't add value, then they're not going to add value for it. They have to be able to prove it in the market. Fannie Mae does not allow appraisers to use the PV value or cost approach only. Fannie Mae says you have to use sales for your market. Now, Freddie Mac, VA, and FHA all say if you don't have a sale with the solar system, you can use the income approach or the cost approach. So whichever approach that you go about, whichever lender they're going to, just be sure you have the data in the MLS so the appraiser can find the market data to prove that the value does or does not, the solar system does or does not have value in the market. So one of the best places you can go on here, on the right-hand side here, we have, move this. We have, this is a page out of the green addendum. Now, this identifies a solar system. Some of your solar system on these houses today may have 3 or 4 arrays. An array is a group of panels. Sometimes they're all pointing in the same direction. If they are, you can do it on one column. If you have an array and they're pointing in different orientations, different directions, then you have to identify each array based on its orientation. You can use 1 page, 2 pages, whatever you need to identify that system. So you notice that,
Sandy, real quick, we've got a question.
Okay.
They said, if this is the case and the data does start to flow into a market, how can this data get used to improving value? How does it start?
Well,
By
it starts
being
with, go ahead, Peggy.
By being in the MLS.
Yeah.
You know, like we've got to start using these fields and showing that. And it's like Sandy was saying with this solar, with this addendum, have your solar people complete this addendum and attach it to the MLS. And then the appraisers can go out there and be pulling sales based on the comparables for green. And that's when we're going to start being able to establish value.
You're going to have to sell it for more. I mean, don't expect the appraiser to come up with a value higher than your sale price just because it has solar. You've got to sell it for more. Appraisers are telling me they'll call a number of agents and say, well, how much more did you list the house for because it had solar? And they'll say, I didn't list it for any more. If you don't list it for more, you're telling the market, you're telling the appraiser it has no additional value. And then keep in mind that by completing this addendum, it gives the appraiser everything they need to do a cost approach and to do the income approach using PV value. But if they don't have these kind of details about the solar system, it's going to be very hard for them to compare it to other sales with solar or to do an income or cost approach. And notice the first thing here is the type of ownership, and then the size of the system, the year it was installed, because keep in mind, maybe the appraiser has a 5 kilowatt system and all the comps they're finding are 2 kilowatts. Is a 5 kilowatt equal to 2 kilowatt? Maybe, maybe not. But the appraiser needs to know the size of the systems in order to fairly analyze the value of that system. And where it's mounted, how it's mounted, and the inverters. And the other big thing that's coming up today is batteries. We're seeing more and more batteries in the market. Identify those batteries in the MLS. I don't think you have a searchable field for batteries yet. Peggy, if I'm wrong, speak up.
Okay, I'll double check that, because we've got a couple brokers, Abbott Worcester, who might be on this call, that can to touch base with their MLS on adding fields. We'll do the batteries.
Yeah, and on the battery, if there's not a searchable field, put it in those first 2 lines in your public comments. Solar battery, don't just say battery, but solar battery. And then the appraiser can use a word search to find them until we get those fields. But that's another thing. Batteries cost money, and the big question, I get calls all the time from appraisers going, how can I value this battery when I have no clue if there are other sales in the market? So you can see how this makes a huge difference. So on the, back up, sorry about that. Let me click this one. So here is what a PV value might look like. You can even do this as an agent. You can complete the PV value. You sign up for free. There's no subscription cost. I would highly recommend you take a class to really understand how to use it, but it can help you set a list price for a solar system. So here we have a solar system that's 9 years old. It is 11.52 kilowatts, or 11,520 watts. And it has a market value here based on income approach of $1.20, and on the cost approach at $1.18. And that's a pretty good size system. And this one happens to be a commercial system. So and notice it has the Florida Power and Lights at 11.5 cents a kilowatt. There are places here where you can override what the defaults are. This program automatically pulls from NRAIL, a utility rate, and it's not always 100% up to date. So it's up to you to put the user provided utility rate in there. Notice it shows 8.72 cents, which is not correct. So you'd want to put the 11.5 in there, verify it. If you use the 8.7, your value would probably come down around $1 or less per watt. But this gives you a really good guide for listing a property. How much more should I list it for because it has a solar system? And have that data available for your buyer and for your appraiser, for the lender. You could even complete that, attach it to your MLS, attach it to your sales contract, give it to the appraiser. Buyers can also take a look at it. It gives them a really good idea of the benefits of what this solar systems can do for them. A good example is right here. It shows them that in this current year, it's going to produce 5,472 kilowatt hours. So that gives them the benefit right there. And they can multiply, how much is that saving me? And they can go down here and see it's going to save them a little over $1,000, $1,800 a year by having the solar system. So it's a good tool for advertising the property as well. Any questions on that while I'm on that screen?
No, I might add something. You know, just recently our MLS put on, whenever any agent logged into our MLS, they had a video on telling us, and our MLS covers more than 1/3 of the state of Florida, but telling the agents, start using these fields. Please use the green fields. That's why I have a problem with why we're not using our fields, particularly in areas that mandate green. You know.
Yeah. Right.
So
Andy, there's a couple questions or comments. Meg Garrett said, RESO, the Real Estate Standards Organization, recently approved a new set of power storage fields to support battery data. This will be added to the next version of their data dictionary wiki.
Great, Meg. I'm glad you're on the call. Thanks for being here.
And then D. Omahen said, my MLS only has fields that say solar rough-in. I have asked them to add better fields for this, and they have refused. It is NEFAR. Any ideas how to make this better? It's very frustrating.
Yeah, I've heard that from a couple agents, well, more than a couple agents. I just keep hitting them with that. And if the Florida Green Building Coalition could encourage it as well, get your appraisers to encourage it. If all of us start, we are their clients, and they should be trying to service us. So it's going to take more than just agents. Probably it's going to take the Florida Green Building Coalition, any of the other HERS, maybe even RESNET could help promote that. And I know Meg, you guys are always promoting it as well.
Yeah.
Just stay with it. Don't give up.
And she also asked a follow-up, what does solar rough-in mean?
Oh, okay. So that's a good question. Let me get to that and I'll show you what, if I can find it here. There we go. I think you're seeing it over here. Solar rough-in. Did you see that on the screen here? I think we have it on here. What it actually means is it's like a zero energy ready home where it's all set up for solar. It's got the wiring, and it's all set up. The roof line should be pointed in south or somewhere near south or due south, southeast, southwest. And it will have space on the roof to put that system in that right orientation. When we revised the green addendum, I don't know, maybe it was 2 years ago. And the reason we updated it is there's supposed to be the Green Choice Mortgage that Freddie Mac has. They are considering adding a solar loan component where you can roll that solar into the mortgage. So when somebody goes in to apply for a mortgage, they will give them the option. The appraiser, when they go out to look at the home, they'll be requested to look at the roof. Do they have enough space there to put a solar system in? Due south, is it right orientation? And they'll be asked if it has a solar rough-in. Then they will ask the buyer, would you like to roll a new solar system put on this house in the mortgage? We can do that with the Green Choice Mortgage. So that's why a solar rough-in becomes important to identify in the MLS. Also to ask the lender about, to roll that right into the mortgage. That's the safest way, and that way it can be valued with the real estate. But if you do a separate solar loan, you can't roll it into the market value of the real estate.
Wow.
Yeah. Now you can put your sales contract subject to the solar loan being paid off, and then the appraiser has to make the value subject to the solar loan being paid off. And then they can roll the value of the solar into the real estate. So that's one way to get around it. So again, databases and resources that provide appraisers and other agents with the basis are what we need to support our opinion of value. And we've got a lot more of those coming out. There's the appraiser portal. Now, some of these, maybe you say, well, I'm not an appraiser, so what does this matter to me? It should matter to you to have this resource available to give to appraisers. Are you aware of this? I'll provide, or hopefully CJ will provide, a PDF of these slides, and you could hand that to the appraiser and say, take a look at this. This is good data for you if you're not familiar with it. RESNET has a free portal for appraisers. We have about 47,000 licensed appraisers in the United States. Only 36, and that's 47,000 residential only. We have about 78 or 80,000 total. So the others are commercial. Out of those 47,000, only 3,600 residential appraisers have actually gone in and signed up to get this data. Now, this data is very valuable to identifying the energy efficiency of the home. It allows the appraiser to search by address, search by zip code, by city, and then I can download into an Excel spreadsheet all the homes in that market that have a HERS rating on them. I can take that Excel spreadsheet, download sales from the MLS, merge them together, and then sort them by address. That's what the appraiser would actually have to do because of the lack of data in the MLS. Now,
You know,
not all of, go ahead.
We've got like this great Albert Worcester is a green broker in Sarasota. He's working with RESNET right now on getting them to auto-populate into our MLS. So that information would automatically go in when we go pull this. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, RESNET has offered that to MLSs all over the U.S. And so far, I think only one has taken advantage of it. But that's the more accurate way to get it done, is have it automatically pull in. When you put the address in, it searches the RESNET portal and brings in the HERS rating. So not only, yeah,
I think it'll be great. I don't know if he's on the call. If he is, Albert, jump on and give us an update. But go ahead.
Okay, so this portal will also tell the appraiser what the energy savings is. It will also tell them that if it's Energy Star certified, and they're going to be adding 2 more data fields to that, and one is a preliminary HERS rating. There are 3 kinds of rating, and a new construction is going to get a preliminary rating. Well, those new construction's not in there right now, but it will be soon. And the appraiser usually appraises a home from plans and specs. So they need that preliminary HERS rating in order to accurately value the energy efficiency of the home. So those are some new things that will be added to RESNET. And I'll give you a caveat. I just joined the RESNET board of directors. So
I love
glutton for punishment with some of the areas I'm in, but hopefully it will be beneficial to what I'm working on. So yeah. All right.
Well, you
so
know, these webinars that the benefit of these, of you coming on and doing this webinar with us, is they're recorded and on our FGBC's website. So I'm hoping that brokers will have a lunch and learn in their office. If they couldn't jump on this call, we'll have a lunch and learn and go through all the different, because we've had people on with how to complete a green certification, so that people the agents can understand the fields, transporting them into the MLS. So we greatly appreciate what you're doing. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you, Peggy. No problem at all. Here's a graphic you can get out of the RESNET, and there's a public site too. So the public site is here on the screen, I think, or maybe the next one. But the public access to HERS rating. So there it is right there. That's the public access. So you could go into RESNET to this link here, and you can get this graphic. You can search by address. Now, sometimes the raters will put a misspelling in, so try it a couple different ways. For instance, maybe the rater put 19 ST and left out the R. So you may have to try it a couple different ways. But you can get this graphic right here. And this graphic is something that you could use in the multiple list in your photo gallery. But it tells you what the HERS rating is, gives you a map of where it's located, tells you who the builder is, the HERS rater, year it was constructed, the year it went into the RESNET database, how much the average annual energy cost will be, and what the average annual savings should be. And it tells you it's Energy Star rated. So again, that's directly from the source. And if you pull it directly from the source, it's less liability for you. So I would highly encourage you to pass that information on to the agents in your area to make sure that they're aware of this. And those ratings can go back to 2013. Prior to that, the database doesn't have all of those prior to 2013 in it. It doesn't mean there weren't any prior to that. They just aren't in the database in a format that could be published. So here's what appraisers can do to these. They can, like I told you, when we download from the RESNET database and we pair it with the MLS Sales listings or pending, we can begin to see, are the HERS rated sales, did they sell for more than the non-rated sales? And that's what appraisers have to do to prove their value or their adjustments in their sales comparison approach. So here we're looking what I call group pairing. So we're comparing the average sale price of rated homes to non-rated homes. Now you'd want to find homes that are similar in size, something that a typical buyer would look at. Are they similar homes in a similar neighborhood? Make sure that there's nothing unusual that would offset the sale price. So that's the kind of data we can get by using the RESNET database and the MLS together. Here's something else that should help the agent list the homes. I quite often hear, well, I didn't list it for more because I didn't know how much more to list it for. You don't list it for more, you're not going to sell it for more unless you're in a hot market. And the market's having multiple bids, which we have experienced, but don't expect that for eternity. The Freddie Mac did a white paper in 2019, and they were using sales from 2013 and 2017. And they showed that properties with a HERS rating sold for 2.7% more nationwide. That was a nationwide study than unrated homes. And if the home had a better energy rating, like a high energy rating, meaning that maybe it's a 30 or 20 in the HERS rating, it sold for 3 to 5% more than a lesser rated home. They also found that loans in the high debt to income ratio that have ratings appear to have a lower delinquency rate. So that's good news on the lender side. So it was good to see that paper come out because the results of this paper were very similar to all the studies appraisers have done. You know, and prior to them doing this study, they thought appraisers were nuts. This stuff, people don't care about energy efficiency or green. Well, when they did their own study, they said, you're right. Now, they could narrow that down to certain markets. And when they narrowed it down to certain markets, there were some markets that didn't show any premiums for these features. But again, I bet you, if you look at the data, they probably either didn't have a lot of these homes or they weren't properly advertised. So there's the premiums there. And then Meg's going to like this. I always remind people, this is another great resource, Green Building Registry. And this registry gives the appraiser, gives the public, it gives agents a place to go and find homes in a particular market that are green or energy efficient. I use this all the time, and I always advertise it when I'm doing webinars and I'm teaching, when I'm speaking anywhere. I tell people, go here. We can do heat maps that will prove that the market accepts these kinds of homes, because here's the number of homes in that given market. You can make up it on the next page. For instance, I did a search of Florida. You see all these big green dots?
Wow.
Those are telling you how many homes have some green or energy features. It may be solar, it may be a HERS rating, maybe HES rating, maybe FG, Florida Green Building Coalition. There's so many acronyms.
I love
But
that.
the appraiser, yeah, the appraiser can put this right in the appraisal report and say, here's proving that the market's reacting to this because they're buying these homes, they're being built, they're everywhere. So here's 190,000. I'd love to do this when I go into a new market. Recently, I did 3 webinars for appraisers in Texas, in Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston. And I always start out by asking, do you have any energy efficient green homes in this market? And invariably they'll say, oh, we don't have any of those at all. I'll pull up this heat map and show them how many they have, and you should see their mouths drop.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. And again, this is a marketing tool for your buyers in the market. Look at how many are out there. This is the home for tomorrow. Don't buy a home that has yesterday's features. Buy a home that has tomorrow's features. So a great way that this can be used. You can also click on this, and I'm sure Meg's probably given you a webinar on how to use it. You can click on it, You can search by address, by city, by zip code, by state. You can click and get a green addendum downloaded. If their green addendum is in this database, you can download it and print it. It's already published for you. So great resource. I really give a lot of credit to Meg and her team for what they've done with this database. It's a real step forward for us. So can the buyer, yeah, were you familiar with that, Peggy?
Yes, yes. In fact, I think Meg was on one of our panels.
Okay.
Yeah, a panel discussion. But I need to have her back on. You're right. She's fabulous.
Yes, yes. Can the buyer finance the additional costs or energy or green features? Yes, they can through Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA. They all have programs. And stay tuned if you're doing very many VA loans, because they're redoing the VA policy right now. They were mandated to do it by the legislature. And I'm hoping that they will increase the amount that they will allow for energy upgrades. Right now, the buyer, if you have a buyer, it's a VA, he's going VA loan, and he's buying a house or she's buying a house that's not energy efficient, and you want to encourage them to make some energy improvements like insulation, windows, a new HVAC system, or a solar system. Remind them that they can borrow $6,000 over the mortgage amount without an appraisal to do those upgrades. It's a great program. I'm hoping that in the new policy, they will change that to something that's more realistic. $6,000 doesn't go far on a $600,000 house. It might help a lot on a $100,000 house. So you need to make it commensurate with the value or size of the home. So I'm hoping they'll make some changes there. But like I said, the green mortgage is out there, and FHA has an energy efficient mortgage. Right now, previously our interest rates were so low, people didn't care about an energy efficient mortgage and they weren't pushing it. But it's something your buyers should always ask for, especially since our interest rates are up higher now. So steps to take to ensure that your future as a real estate professional, take education that's meaningful and adds knowledge and skills to your toolbox. Always be looking for something new that you can learn. You can learn from a lot of people. So listen to everyone who learns and learns you can. Take good courses. Acknowledge the change in building science and housing trends, and don't be afraid to learn more about them or to ask questions. Builders are usually quite eager to give you information on building science, so ask them questions. Update your green feature marketing, populate your green fields, and choose to be an expert in the features that the market prefers, and educate the public. We need to do a lot more in the way of education on the public side. Energy efficient green homes with accessory dwelling units and solar PV homes need valuation professionals with knowledge. If any of you are running into accessory dwelling units, that's another issue that seems to be a big hot topic with appraisers today. We're seeing more of those being built, and very few appraisers understand how to value them. So it falls in line with the complexity.
Yeah, we just had a webinar on the ADUs.
Yeah, I wrote the course on valuing those for the Institute. So we do have education out there.
Cool.
So NAR members, I do strongly support. I'm a NAR Green designee. I support you taking the classes. You could do it over the weekend online, or you can go into a classroom and do it. If you're not a NAR Green designated appraised realtor, highly recommended. I even encourage appraisers to take it and get the NAR Green designation. So
I agree.
And then on the appraiser side, remind your appraisers, they don't have to be a member of the Appraisal Institute. I'd love for them to be, but they don't have to be on the Green Appraiser Registry through the Appraisal Institute. All they have to do is take our classes that are listed here. There's 3 of them for residential and there's 3 for commercial. Then if you're residential oriented, you want to take the 3 on the left side. If you're commercial, 3 on the right side. And pass the exams, then your name goes up on the website that you have taken the education and passed the classes. So real estate agents have access to those appraisers on that on the registry, and so do lenders. So the Appraisal Institute Green Registry, that just goes over what's on there. Let me see if I can. So here's another website that you might, or a group of websites you might want to take a look at yourself. You can see the RESNET portal there, the Green Building Registry, link to the Green Addendum, the PV value, NGBS database, Florida Green Building Coalition. These are one I regularly give out when I'm giving webinars to appraisers or realtors. With that, I'll open it up for questions.
Sandy, that was fantastic.
Thanks, Peggy.
We do have
Peggy's one of my
question.
biggest fans.
We have a question from Dio Man asking how long it takes to become an appraiser.
Oh, how long do you have? You have to be, once you take the educational classes, you have to be under a supervisor or take what we now know as the AI, it's AI because AI developed it, career program. And you're looking at pretty much a minimum of 2 years to become an appraiser and get your license to be an appraiser. And you do have to have a associate degree to get your residential license for your college degree on the commercial side.
And then Bill Cashman wanted to remind everyone that there's a green professional course that FGBC has been putting together, and it will be launched later this year.
Oh, great. Now, would that be open to anyone, or is that for builder oriented?
Anyone. And it'll be an online course that you can take at your leisure.
Oh, it's great. Good. I like that. Any other questions?
I think we're good.
Appreciate your valuable time, honey. I mean, and congratulations on VP and president next year. You are definitely an asset in the United States pocket.
Oh, thank you, Peggy. And I'm actually president-elect. It's strange how they do it. We go vice president, president-elect, then president. So next year I'll be president. Then I have one more year after that where I'll be past president. So at the end of 2025, I'll be through with the leadership in this area. So, yeah.
Well, you've definitely been an asset. And I really do appreciate you trying to, and like I said, this will be available on our FGBC's website. So that hopefully agents and brokers will do another lunch and learn and explain to them why we've got to get on board for this. We got to start helping the appraisers do their job. I mean, we can't expect them to be adding value if we can't even put it in the system ourselves.
Yeah.
And there will be a follow-up email that'll include the slide deck for everyone to see. So that'll be coming email.
Thank you, everyone, for listening in. It was an honor to be asked again. So I will be glad to do it again for you if it works into my schedule. I'm going to be pretty busy for the next 2 years, so but I'll try my best.
Thanks so much, honey.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.